one of the main themes in Parshat Pinchas, and really the whole Sefer Bamidbar as a whole, is the idea of counting. We know that in the beginning of the Sefer, Hashem does one counting of the Jewish people, and again in our parsha, Parshat Pinchas, Hashem does a second counting. And the question is really, what is all this importance of the counting of the Jewish people, and how is this counting, which we know was obviously a successful counting, different than the counting that takes place in the times of David, which we know leads to a big plague and terrible misfortune. So one answer that Rashi in the beginning of Parshat Kitisa actually offers is that the countings were done with different items. Meaning Rashi says that the counting in our parsha and in the beginning of the Sefer were countings done with silver coins, as Beka Lagolgolas. And therefore, those countings were good, successful. As opposed to the times of David, they were not counted with coins, and therefore they were counted actual people, and therefore Rashi says that the counting led to a plague. And the pasuk implies that you should count. In the beginning of Kitisa already, the pasuk says, Kitisa as rosh b'nei Yisrael v'fkutehem nasnu yishkofer nafshol Hashem prosam lo yeh bahem nega, that there won't be a plague because you will count them in a certain way. So that's the first answer by Rashi, that the countings were done with different items. Another way to view it, though, is not about how the countings were done, but more about why the countings were done, or who initiated the countings. In our Parshat Pinchas, and in the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar, the countings are initiated by God. God wants to count the people, and we know, Rashi quotes a lot of times, that it's out of love for us, that bitoch hibatan shall yishol, that since Hashem loved us, He counted us a lot of times to show us how much He loved us and how important each and every were. Rashi compares it to the counting of the stars, that the same way Hashem counts the stars each and every time, so too He counted us each and every time. However, in the times of David, the counting is much different. A human cannot possibly really remember so many people's names, and therefore a counting by a human or initiated by a human is obviously not for the individual to show how important he or she is, because human cannot discern individuals in such a large mass. And the counting in the times of David was just to get an overall number of how many people David knows that he has in his kingdom. And if we view it like this, the countings are therefore very different. In the countings in Parshat Pinchas and the Sefer Bamidbar as a whole, the countings are for the person being counted. That Hashem is counting us for our sake, to show us how important we are. As opposed to in times of David, David is counting us to show how many people he has in his kingdom. So it's not for the purpose of the person being counted, it's for the purpose of the person doing counting. And therefore in times of David, the counting led to a big plague, while in times of Pinchas and Bamidbar, the countings were very successful. And this is a lesson that applies to not just counting in general, just in terms of how we treat people in general, that when we do actions for people, they should be done to help better them, and to affect them, and not for our sake, and to affect us. The Shabbos.